I always like to say motivation is what gets you started, but it's discipline and habits that keep you going. 16 years old, and it was because I was feeling really self-conscious. I saw one of the personal trainers there that looked like they were having so much fun and training their clients and being so motivational, and I was like, I want to do that. What you do most of the time has a much greater impact than what you do only sometimes. The mental clarity, confidence, everything that came with, and yeah, it turned into my lifelong career and passion, and here I am now. And
welcome to today's podcast episode. We have a very special guest joining us, a beacon of authenticity in the world of online fitness. In today's episode, we'll delve into Natalie's journey in the world of fitness coaching, personal training, and her tips for living a fulfilling and balanced life while being able to reach your health goals. Natalie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming or being here.
Yes.
Tell us, and for those listening, where or how did your journey in fitness begin?
Well, actually, it started in high school where I asked my mom, pretty much begged her to get me a gym membership when I was like 16 years old. And it was because I was feeling really self-conscious because I wasn't the girl that was good at sports. I did cheerleading 1 year and it was great, but still like felt like it wasn't necessarily me at the time. And I was like, I need to be active. I'm feeling just like an insecure, teenager. All girls kind of go through that phase. So that's when I joined the gym. It just kind of was something that I messed around with doing just to do some like extracurricular activities. And then as I grew up and I got into college, that wasn't my intention to study it, which I ended up going and getting my degree in kinesiology. But I was kind of trying to figure out my major, and I was working out at the school gym and getting really into it, where my friends were telling me, Natalie, like, you are like getting really into this. Like you make it seem like it's like a part of your life. And like I started asking me for tips. And then one of my friends was like, have you ever considered like majoring in kinesiology? It's all about sports science. Like, I think you would really like it. And I was like, I didn't even know that was such a thing. Like, especially that this is back in 2008, 2009. So I feel like back then it really wasn't a big major as it is now. No. It's definitely grown. So when you hear that word, you're like, what the heck is kinesiology? Like it just sounded so foreign to me. And then I was like looking at the curriculum and the classes, and I was like, wow, there's science, there's math, there's physics, there's history of like everything sports. And I was like, yeah, like, why don't I do this? Didn't know where I was going to go with it, right? Maybe, I don't know, physical therapy, personal training actually didn't really cross my mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
And then once I graduated, I actually got hired at my local gym because I saw one of the personal trainers there that looked like they were having so much fun and training their clients and being so motivational. And I was like, I want to do that. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, like, are you hiring? I just got my degree. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, we'll set you an interview. And that's where it really started. So I started with just an interest in fitness and working out because of my insecurities. Then I started to really just love it, not just for the physical aspects of it, but just the mental clarity, the confidence, everything that came with. And yeah, it turned into my lifelong career and passion, and here I am now. And I no longer do in-person training, but I've been in the online space for several years now, and I really love it too.
The online space is such I want to say a deep and phenomenal space, while crazy at the same time, especially in the world of fitness.
Yes.
I feel like something crazy is popping up every single day, the very minimum every week.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Like, how did you find the transition from in-person to online?
Well, it wasn't my intention. I'm really glad it happened, but that was during COVID. All the gyms shut down. I was working in a private gym, and they decided, for good reason, I understand that we just couldn't work out anymore. And even if my clients were, willing to like meet me somewhere else or at home or anything like that, honestly, everyone was really scared at that time. And it wasn't So, and I didn't want to put anyone in an awkward position or have to have a reason of like, oh, well, we still feel like Natalie needs to make her money too. Like, we're all struggling, we're all losing our jobs. Like, I didn't want anyone to feel like that. So I was like, you know what? Let me just figure out this online thing. Maybe I like kind of started doing like Zoom sessions, like at home workouts, things like that. And it helped. But I still didn't really have the exact structure or systems that I wanted. And that's when I hired and found a really reputable business coach that like had done that even before COVID. So I was like, I think I can make this online thing work. I don't really know too much about it, but I do want to learn, and I see some potential there. And then I started, working out my systems, my structure, how I was going to run my business model, how I was actually going to work with the clients in an online aspect, because, it is a little bit challenging when people feel like, well, I need to work out in a gym, I need to have a trainer with me. Like, how are you going to help me? Like, I had to overcome those objections and provide a valuable service that was worth not only their time, but also mine as well. And once I figured all of those parameters, I ended up just going full time with it, even when gyms reopened, because it not only was equal to the income I was making before, but it surpassed it. And I felt like I was really impacting my clients' lives on a whole different level than just the workout itself in a training session. So it's really all encompassing with how I work with them and what I do for them.
For anybody who's listening and think, well, I go to a personal trainer and I see them like once a week. How is it different or more beneficial for somebody to see an online coach like yourself as opposed to maybe that personal training session once a week?
Right. And that's what I would do. I had clients 1 hour a day for up to 3 times a week. And I loved it, and it was really great. Very human interaction, right?
Of course.
But with online coaching, I really realized that the struggle is not the workouts itself, because that is 1 hour of our 24 hours in a day. And what has a greater impact on health, on results, is what we do all the other 23 hours of the day. How our quality of sleep, how much we're sleeping, how is our nutrition, how are our habits, our behaviors. Those are things that have a much greater impact versus the 1 hour itself. And that is what I heavily focus on with my clients. Yes, I provide workouts that they can do at home, at the gym, and it's on their time when it's convenient for them. But I really dive into, well, what does the rest of your day look like? The rest of your week look like? And how can we plug health and fitness to not only get you to your results, but also help you make it sustainable and enjoyable, so this is something you can keep up for life.
Do you think that's where most people go wrong? It's like the all of nothing, let me give it everything that I've got. I might last for 3 months, but then I'm going to fall off, as opposed to how do I make this part of my life, not completely my life?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? I've been there, and I feel like that's another reason why I am so strong and passionate about this, is because that was me. I was the all or nothing girl. So kind of taking things back a little bit, but
Please.
That's especially in college. It was like, you're really busy with studies. You also trying to keep up with a social life and make friends. And you like have the idea of you need to eat healthy, but then, late night studying, you're binge eating, you're staying up really late. Like, all of that was heavily impacting my progress. And I even ended up gaining like the freshman 20 pounds. So because of my lifestyle choices, even though I was still in the gym regularly, I even took like a weightlifting class to force me to work out regularly. But as much as I was working out, I was still gaining weight because of those poor habits that I had picked up.
Yep.
And when I started to see myself gain that weight and I hit my heaviest, I was like, okay, I need to make a change. I need to do something. And that's when I did the all or nothing approach, where I was like, okay, I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm not going to like eat anything bad, fast food, etc. And I went very, very extreme. I even went vegan for a time, and nothing against veganism. If that's your lifestyle, all for it. But I did it for the wrong reasons. I did it because it was eliminating meat. It was eliminating dairy. It was eliminating so many things, which obviously is also eliminating calories. Yeah. But I went that extreme, and obviously was not sustainable for me, especially at that time in my life, being in my early 20s. I didn't know how to approach it in a safe and realistic manner. It was very extreme. It left me feeling fatigued, tired, run down, and I was like, okay, I can't do this. So I've done a few cycles of like fad diets, whether if it wasn't veganism, it was at least just eliminating carbs or eliminating some type of food group. And it would just end up backfiring because I would go back and binge, or I would go back and sabotage and just eat everything. So that didn't work out for me. And I think that's where a lot of people I wouldn't say it's a mistake, it's a learning curve, right? But many people will approach their fitness now with the same all or nothing mentality. Like they're not happy with where they're at in their health. They want to make a change, but they feel in order to see a fast result that they need to do something extreme, whether it's a fad diet, eliminating food groups, or training every single day in the gym, 5 days a week, going from 0 to 100 right out the gate. And it works for a little bit. Maybe they're very motivated for the first week. They're starting to see some results. They keep going the second week, third, fourth week, maybe even a couple months. They're like, I'm very tired. I am very run down. I don't think I can keep doing this, or I'm not seeing progress for as much time and energy I'm putting in. So I'm going to stop.
Yeah, it's like, it's not working, so I'll just stop.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you think everyone has to go through that, what I refer to as the pendulum swing, right? They have to go from one side of which is being the all or nothing extreme to maybe I'll just dabble in a little bit and now I'll find balance?
Well, I definitely think getting to balance does take a lot of trial and error and a lot of time and patience. Does someone have to go through this type of extreme measure in order to get there? No, not necessarily. I think especially if they seek out the right guidance and support early on. But I think the mindset of many people is, well, let me try this on my own. Let me figure it out. And, hey, power to you. I'm sure I've been there. You've been there. Whether it's fitness related or not, we want to try these things on our own. But there's really so much we know about any particular subject that maybe what we're trying is not necessarily going to work.
Let's go back to habits, because I feel like habits for a lot of people is something that obviously that compounds, they consistently do. So that's how they create a good or a bad habit. If I'm trying to change a bad habit, especially around maybe food or my stress or anything like that, what would you say to people to help implement new ones?
Have you heard of the term or the phrase habit stacking?
I personally have. Yes.
So habit stacking, what I would recommend is when we do want to make change, not to bite off more than we can chew. So if you want to change a habit of, I want to, exercise regularly, I want to eat healthy meals, I want to get good quality sleep, I want to go out and walk more, I want to eat more protein, like all these habits that you have in mind that are going to create a healthier version of you. Not going 0 to 100, so not trying to go for all the habits at once, but picking one, maybe two, and then establishing a habit with those by consistently repeating them for at least a couple weeks, and then adding the next one. So that's why we call it habit stacking. So it's like building blocks. You're starting with 1 to 2 habits, you're nailing it down, you're adding the next habit, you're nailing it down, and that way it gets more digestible and it's easier to stay consistent with versus going for it all at one time.
Would that be helpful for people who are trying to find balance immediately, like in between their work life, their social life, and their health and fitness goals?
Oh, absolutely. I think that you can, again, kind of habit stack 1 to 2 areas of your life at a time. So habit stacking with health, habit stacking with like work and setting some boundaries, or have a habit of stacking with family time and other obligations. And then once you feel that, okay, I'm starting to get this down, what other changes can I add and build to this? And that will help over time establish that balance, of course. But again, and we're not going to be perfect.
Of course.
There's going to be times we still slip, we still fall back, we still, get off the horse for a little bit. But once you recognize that and say, hey, you know what, I was doing so well, instead of the all or nothing, instead of just giving up and going backwards, hey, I was doing really well. I slipped up a little bit, but I'm just going to get right back on and keep moving forward.
You competed, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And a couple things. So which are you referring to?
Well, so you competed in fitness comps? Like you
Yes.
did bodybuilding, right?
Yes.
And then you did a powerlifting.
Yes.
How did that influence or shape how you look at health and fitness or the fitness community or?
Right. Great question. So that also, the reason I did a bikini competition
Yeah.
back in, it was 2011. It was for a couple of reasons. It was one, because I had just become a personal trainer. So I figured, wow, if I get this type of competition under my belt, it'll help me have more credibility.
Yeah.
The other thing was I noticed that I was not getting the results I wanted on my own. And I figured, okay, this will motivate me to get in really good shape, to be disciplined with my diet, to exercise regularly. Again, it was kind of that extreme. And I did not go into it with a mindset of like, I want to be an athlete. I want to like take this somewhere. I want to, kind of prove to myself and be very disciplined. Like I kind of feel like I did it for the wrong reasons, more like vanity metrics and, I guess to like further my career, thinking it would further my career in some way.
Like outside validation kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. But so that put me through a journey of, how I was kind of living my life just in a way, and I was already at like a balance. And then I had to go to, eating very small meals frequently. I had to work out kind of like twice a day, whether that was cardio in addition to weight training. And I had check-ins and like the posing, and it was a lot. And I did it. I'm proud of myself that I did it. But there was also no guidance or support post show. So I got to my very leanest. I stepped on the stage and I was on very, very low calories to get to that point. Then it was like, then what? And of course, it's so exciting to cross that finish line that, all right, we're going out to eat. And now I can just
eat all the candy.
Yes, I can like relax.
Yeah.
And I ended up gaining the weight plus more back again. So I've gone through these cycles of lose weight, gain weight quite a few times, this being one of them. And I realized like, okay, well, that was great for the time and it served its purpose for competing, but I obviously can't live like that moving forward.
No, and I think a lot of people I'm a very big believer that the bodybuilding world or the fitness world is not the same as the health and fitness world. And I think a lot of people get lost in the bodybuilding world, myself included at one point of my life, where it becomes this need for the outside validation that we get lost in actually what we're doing. And then when you come out of it, because there was so much need for validation, you kind of get lost, or the weight gain that comes back is so, well, it's normal for starters, but on some level unwanted, that the fix to feed, or the fix to understand the feelings that you're having from gaining that weight back is an eating cycle. So you're essentially just causing the same problem of gaining, losing.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
end up in that space. So you transitioned into powerlifting.
Yes.
Which is massive change.
Yes.
How was it?
It was a good change.
Yeah.
And I am not here to say one is better than the other.
Of course.
But for my specific goals and just my preferences, I fell in love with it. And this is actually how it happened. I was at a point where I felt like I wasn't in a slump in my fitness journey, but I was like, I feel like I need to be challenged. I need to do something, work towards something. And it did cross my mind to do another bikini competition, but I do remember how I felt afterwards. But I was like, should I put myself through that again? Now, maybe having more knowledge and having a little bit more experience in weightlifting and eating better, I thought maybe I could actually handle it this next time around. And I had asked one of my fellow trainers, who ended up being my coach, I said, hey, I'm thinking of doing a competition. Should I do a bikini competition or should I do powerlifting? Because I'm seeing myself getting really strong and I'm having fun with it. Should I do that? But I have like no idea how to do it, but like it seems cool, but maybe I should just go and do bikini because I've done it already. And he was like, no, do powerlifting. Like immediate he's like, you are doing so well with your lifting and your training. I see you getting stronger. Like you don't have to diet as extreme. You actually probably get to eat more because you need to fuel your workouts and you'll gain muscle and and it's based off of numbers, not judges. Like the numbers speak for themselves.
Yep.
So like if you put up the most weight, you win the competition. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And he's like, great, I'll coach you. I was like, perfect. So that's how it happened.
How long was your first, like, let's call it a prep or getting ready for that meet?
Ooh, this was back in 2019. That's when the actual competition was, January 2019, I believe. Actually, maybe even before that. Around there, though. I don't know. I want to say at least 4 to 6 months at least. Okay. But it was, and that was more of like the very extreme as far as intense training sessions and like the heavy lifting cycles. Prior to that, I had been training, like working on my strength on my own for at least a year, maybe 2, before I like really kind of came to that point where I was like, I think I want to do competition. And then that's how it happened. But at least 4 extensive months, if not more.
You only did one, right?
And I only did one, yes.
Did you ever think about going back to do a second?
Yeah, honestly. The only thing that really held me back is the training sessions are very long and taxing to the point where also running a business now, I feel like it would just be, I would have to find that balance and time management where I'm able to really push myself into that capacity, give myself enough time to recover, and to have enough time to focus on my clients and my business. So that's really the only reason that I haven't done it again, but it's not completely off the table. Like I'm sometimes think I think about it.
I'm here for it. Okay. So in the online space for fitness coaching, where do people get lost the most? As in, if I'm a new person and I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm looking to try and better my life through health and fitness. Where do you find that people get stopped the most? Is it like all the information? Is it paralysis by analysis? Or is it just the almost like self-sabotaging ways that somebody might have or bad habits?
I think people know what they need, like the saying, like, I know what I need to do, but I just need to do it. So like they know that they need to eat better. They know they need to move their body. Yeah. But where they get stuck is I feel like they don't know how to mold it into their current lifestyle without taking something away from something else. And that is why they adopt the extreme, all or nothing mentality, where instead of, how can I make this support my life, fit into my life rather than take away? Because everyone has individual circumstances, obligations, time restrictions. So they can blindly look in the online space, look at everybody else, comparing themselves to everybody else, but not considering, well, maybe the person is doing it this way and has this much time to put into it because of their circumstances.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
And they think because I'm going to try to do, or I look at this person, I'm going to try to do it just like them. This person works out 5 days a week. This person meal preps all their meals. This person does X, Y, Z. So I'm going to do that. But then there's limitations to, whether that's their job restriction, family restriction. I wouldn't even say restriction, just circumstances.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we have 24 hours in a day, but it's not the same 24 hours.
Exactly.
It's based on, like, I don't have a family and I don't have children to worry about, whereas 3 other women might have families of 3 and 4 and they have toddlers and whatever else to worry about.
Yes, and that is where I think people get stuck.
Yep.
Is not knowing how to start, what to implement first, and how to make it cater to their lifestyle. And a little deeper as far as like, well, where do people like really struggle is it's usually 9 times out of 10 nutrition.
Yep.
And it's okay. Well, for other circumstances, there's women with families that, well, I cook for my whole family and I cook for my kids and they're not going to eat healthy.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, how do I eat healthy for myself, but also set examples for them, but also cater to their needs? Like if they're going to have chicken nuggets, I might have to eat some chicken nuggets. I'm like, go ahead, eat some chicken nuggets. It's okay.
It's a chicken nugget.
Yeah. Or there's, women like us that don't have family obligations and we have a little bit more time freedom. So, our schedule and routine is going to look a lot different. And that is what people need to, I think, realize is give yourself some grace, because you probably wear different hats all throughout the day. And when it comes to finding time for self-care and your health, do what you can with the time that you have. And if you're still doing your best, that's all you can ask.
I agree. I think we all get lost in the comparison game.
Huge.
And online, I think that there's so much. I go into the online space right now. I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. And I've been in the fitness game for, God, I don't know how long. So if somebody's coming onto the online space and looking at all the information out there, what is like 3 of the most biggest misconceptions that you see in the space?
Ash.
You're like, just 3?
Yeah. 3 misconceptions. Okay.
I feel like we could list like 100, right? But it's like, let's start with 3, right?
Okay. I think a huge one, maybe outdated, maybe not, but is the whole carbs are evil. They make you gain weight. And if you want to see any type of results, you should cut them out, or at least reduce their intake. And why I see that as a big no is because carbohydrate, it's not about how many carbs you eat. It comes down to calories in, calories out. But also carbs are a source of energy that we need to fuel our body, to fuel our workouts. And carbs are freaking delicious. Like, I could not imagine living without pasta, rice, like all the good things. Even a cheeseburger from Time, like buns. Like, those are my favorite. Sushi. Like, I don't want to live like that. And I managed to, not have to give up those things and still see great results. And same exact thing with my clients. But yeah, so I would say that's a huge misconception. And
carbs are fantastic, by the way.
Yes, carbs are great. So let's not fear them. And another one is cardio. Cardio is superior to any, I guess, form of exercise for fat loss. I see that as a business. And
like cardio burns more calories or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yes, you can do cardio and it's great for your heart health. It does burn calories. So if you are trying to, lose weight, you are going to burn calories doing cardio. But I think what the misconception is, and I feel like more commonly with women, is that it's more superior than weightlifting, because like they don't, they just want to lean out. They're not really interested in like building muscle, which we don't need to build an extreme amount of muscle. We don't have the testosterone levels to build a whole bunch of muscle really quickly. Like, I've been lifting since I was 16 and,
we don't
I'm
just
still
touch weights.
I'm still trying to like grow muscle. So, but yeah, I think the misconception is like, that's like the main thing I should do, when I think that's actually 3rd to 4th on the list, even if your goal is just to lose fat, not necessarily to build muscle. But I still would prioritize some form of strength training nutrition first and foremost, making sure you're eating, if you want to lose fat, in a calorie deficit, but enough to sustain your energy, your focus, your hormones. If you cut food and calories too drastically, we're going to see detrimental effects to the body. So there's that. And then the second thing would be strength training to some degree. Again, we don't have to build a whole bunch of muscle, nor is it going to happen that quickly, but that will help preserve muscle, maybe even build some muscle to keep fat off in the long run. And I feel when we focus only on cardio or think it's superior paired with slashing calories, we might see weight come down, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose as much fat as you wanted to, or we're going to get skinny fat. And most people, that's not necessarily what they want. I don't think that's not why they go into that.
Just in case anyone's listening, do you want to tell people what skinny fat is?
Yes. And I kind of hate, like, it sounds,
I hate the terminology.
Yeah,
but
I hate the terminology because it just sounds so negative.
It does. It really does. But it's like,
how else can you explain it?
The first time I heard it when I entered the fitness space, I was like, that was an attack. Like, I took it personally. But then the more I got into it, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I understand it, but still, please continue.
So I guess I even like feel foul like saying it. Skinny fat is when you are losing weight, or you're on the scale, especially for your height and weight, like you're pretty small, or like your BMI would essentially be low, but you don't have a lot of muscle mass. So even though you are small and petite, I guess another term I don't like to really say, but it is what it is like we're flabby or we're not as toned, firm, tight where we want to be. So
softer.
Yes, there you go. Soft.
Softer.
We're soft.
Yeah.
Soft tissue.
So yeah.
Yeah.
At a low scale weight, but softer tissue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like I like to this is what I tell my clients a lot, especially when we're talking about scale weight. The body that you want, the picture in your head, the person you're comparing yourself to, the ideal image that you're trying to achieve, that body is going to weigh more than you think it does.
Yeah. I got a real reality check when I learned that.
Yeah.
I feel like the fear of scale weight for most women stems like a generational thing.
Oh, huge.
Like
generations and generations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like ever since that thing came out, like just ruined all hope for women standing on it and feeling good about themselves. Over time, I think it's gotten better, but depending on how you grew up in like what type of household, that number is something that most women fear going up, because on some level our self-worth could be tied to that.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've seen it, and that I think that's probably the biggest struggle that I have to help my clients overcome, because they come into coaching, they want to pursue fitness goals, and the first thing is, I want to see that scale go down.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Like that's the first thing. What's your first goal? Oh, I want to be X pounds or X kilos on the scale.
Yeah.
When people drop weight for the initial period, is that necessarily fat in the first, say, like 3 to 4 weeks?
Not always. It could be water weight. It could be a change in their diet. They're eating a little bit less carbs, so they're retaining less water, or just waste from better digestion. Like, it doesn't necessarily always mean it's body fat. And there is a difference between losing weight on the scale and losing body fat, because your body fat is a ratio of your lean muscle tissue to your fat mass.
Which is why we don't care for the scale.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not shown. I just had a question for you, and it escaped my mind. For the women sitting at home listening, obsessed with that number on the scale, what advice do you have for them?
It's easier said than done. I understand that. And yes, there's certain ranges considered healthy, unhealthy. But when you have to really think, well, okay, first ask yourself, like, why do you want to lose like this weight? It's not necessarily the number that you have in your head. I mean, you may initially think that, but it's the feeling that you think you're going to have once you get there.
I resonate with that. Yeah.
So if you lose, and I see it all the time, like they lose the weight, they get the scale down, but there's still something missing, and they're still maybe not quite happy, or they thought their life would be completely different. Yeah. And it's not necessarily. So it's like, well, what were you really wanting to achieve? Was it confidence? Was it more energy? Was it fitting back into your clothes? Like, was it you being able to keep up with your kids more, or be able to have better endurance, to do more activities for when you go traveling? And when you're traveling, you're going to be doing all these excursions. Like, what is it that you really want from this experience? Because that is going to help you push yourself more, or get to your goal, or feel better regardless of what that scale says, because you can still make that happen despite what that scale reads, especially if you are doing it in an approach where you're building muscle, which will change the scale. Your nutrition looks different, like everything.
Do you find that women's relationship with their bodies affects how they want to go about those goals, or the relationship that they have with their body affects the goals that they chase?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always some type of aesthetic. And one thing that I try to teach to my clients is a concept called body neutrality,
Mhm.
where it's different than body positivity.
Okay.
So body positivity is like no matter what size, shape, we should be positive.
Yep.
And to some degree, I resonate with that. But when we're getting to the point where like our health is at stake,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I draw the line.
It's
But
like either end of the scale, right?
yeah.
Can be both detrimental for the person.
Yes.
Yep.
But body neutrality is accepting, being neutral with where you're at and your body, and you accept it for what it can do for you, and being content with it despite, or being in a neutral standing despite a high or a low, meaning you can hit a low when you are unhappy because you're tying your self-worth, or you're tying your physical appearance to, I guess, to your self-worth, your confidence, etc. And then you want to work on that because you're unhappy. Then that's a low. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is the highs, where you are losing weight, you are seeing more muscle definition, you are fitting into your clothes, which is great, but you're letting that almost overtake you to like, it almost like, I wouldn't say floats your head too much, but you're getting too excited and so happy about it that the moment it slightly slips away, you go back down to that low.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I've experienced both those. And if I think to a time where I experienced that high where I get excited about how I look, definitely every time I got on stage, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe how phenomenal I look. And then the second that it disappeared, it was like, oh, well,
yes.
Now what?
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that's where a lot of women struggle, is they get really low in the lows, they get really high in the highs, and there's no neutrality. So
yeah, I can see that.
And when you do reach a place of body neutrality, it means you start to really love yourself for where you're at, but that doesn't mean you don't want to change or can't make positive changes. But you want to do somewhere out of place of love and acceptance for where you're already at, and see some room for growth and improvement, versus making these changes and trying to enter this health journey out of a place of hate for your body or hate for yourself.
Yeah. It's like coming from a place of love and compassion as opposed to hate.
Yes.
Hate never changes anything. Love and compassion is like the guiding force for any area of the life.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any recent developments and or trends that you see happening in the space that excite you into the direction that it's going?
What excites me? I actually do feel, and maybe it's just because this is what I talk about and what my feeds can be sometimes filled with, but I do see a growth of women in the fitness industry, as far as whether it's a lot more female coaches and trainers, more females in the weight room, and more women preaching building strength, building muscle. Like, if you compare that to like when I entered into the gym, my first step foot in the gym, and even when I first started my Instagram, like that was not happening. And I don't even really know how I do know how we talked about it already, how I got into fitness, but there wasn't Instagram, YouTube at the time.
What year was that for you?
Well, I started coaching, or I got a personal training job in 2011. And that was like, and I think Instagram came out that year, or it wasn't big.
Yeah,
and
it was
even
around
YouTube.
that 11, 12, I think.
Yeah. And even YouTube was like not really like as where it is now. So I didn't have this flood of like, oh, all these girls are doing it. Like, everyone's doing it. It was so, and even working at a gym, I didn't see a lot of women in the weight room. There was some, and then there was like, a lot on the cardio machines, and it was very male dominated. But now I see gyms that are like, you walk in and it's like a bunch of girls, like a bunch of women just like lifting those weights and like outnumbering the men, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's actually phenomenal to see.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Love it.
Especially, actually, my favorite thing is seeing pregnant women.
Yes. Okay. That's another, I think, tying to misconception. I don't think we got to the third one. So
maybe not, but let's just throw it in there anyway.
Yeah. Well, we can actually, because I do have knowledge and certification in pre and postnatal fitness.
Oh, amazing.
So that brings, I guess we could talk about as a third myth is like women shouldn't, if they're pregnant, they shouldn't work out. Of course, you always want to get doctors' approval, but what the general consensus is, and even doctors will agree, is if you've already been actively working out prior to pregnancy, then it's okay to keep working out. Of course, you might need to modify your training as you go, but it's kind of like keep doing the same thing that you were doing. And as you get further along in your pregnancy, there might just be certain movements like you can't do, like obviously you can't be on your stomach and whatnot, but
like
it's actually
changes.
we're actually seeing a growth, like you said, of pregnant women training and how much like strong it helps them become, and it may or may not make their pregnancy easier. It's, all circumstance based and individual case, but it's showing that like, hey, it's possible. Now, if someone isn't never working out, never touched a weight in their life, and then of course they get pregnant, I think doctors usually advise like,
it's like high risk. You're
like
an added stress on your body plus being pregnant.
Yes. But considering there's more women in the weight room these days and women are getting pregnant, we are seeing a shift of there's, pregnant women just doing their thing.
I know, it's phenomenal. Seeing women lift like huge amounts of weight, especially like in a squat or a deadlift, is probably one of my favorite things to witness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone gets in a frenzy when they see it, if they have no knowledge behind it or their own misconceptions or their own, whatever they were taught in their generation growing up, that like they freak out.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's mostly of what I see when I do scroll through the comments, right? To, I don't know, see what's in there. The comments are a dangerous place in any post.
Yes.
But it usually is older women or older men who haven't been educated up until this point of where we now are with science and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What else? What else in the fitness space excites you?
So right now there is a lot of myths out there, a lot of anybody can make a post about anything and say anything and say, study this, study that, these studies say. So there's a lot of misinformation out there for sure. But I think I'm starting to see a shift in people are able to maybe decipher a little bit more of what's right from wrong, because for every myth, for every account that preaches something far-fetched, extreme, with no actual scientific base or anything like that, there's going to be somebody else to come back and refute it. There's always going to be two sides to the story. But because the more and more people that are able to make false allegations or just come up with any nuance, there'll be, there's someone coming back to refute it. So I think there's going to be like a shift in people recognizing what's BS and what's not, especially when you kind of come and approach it and of like, well, here's fact versus myth, and here's why it's a fact and why it's a myth. Like, here's hard proof evidence versus like, I'm just saying it to say it.
Like, you can spot reduce, right? Like, that's, I feel like, the standard across the board for so long. But I do agree with you. Like, the shift of false information and actual information that's being put out, and the people with great knowledge, right? Like Lane Norton, right?
Yes.
He seems to pop up everywhere now. But once upon a time, and when I say once upon a time, it's like 2-3 years ago, he was like drowned out. All the people with depths and years of knowledge seem to be drowned out by everything else. And now it's like flipping.
Yes. Good point. So, and I think that's exactly why, it was because these factual people that present actual like studies and cases were being drowned, because what's really pushed out there is the far-fetched clickbaity type of content, and
6-pack in 4 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. And now the people with the knowledge, the experience, the years of research are growing themselves and putting content or delivering content in a way that people want to hear it, that it is starting to have that effect. And they're starting to make more noise in the industry.
It's great. I think it's fantastic. And I feel like it goes to any area of your life, right? If you show up as authentically as you possibly can, you will be the person who goes the furthest. If you show up and provide fake or false information, you can only sustain for so long before you go off, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Very well said. I think that's exactly where we're seeing at least like social media kind of go towards. There's always going to be some type of BS out there, but you're very right.
I think people are craving depth as well. Like, we're seeing an increase in podcasts, people wanting to get back into the connections that they had. But I think people are craving depth and understanding of where their money might be going, or why I'm doing this, or if I do this, what's to come after, instead of just the aesthetics. And I think that's still like a huge component of it. I think people are wanting more than just the aesthetic. Yeah.
I think you're very right. It's definitely more human connection based experience storytelling. I definitely agree with you there.
What motivates you to keep pursuing yourself in this area? Like you have essentially grown, right? From going from kinesiology to, where did you start personal training?
Like what location?
Yeah, like you started in a corporate location.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So you went from kinesiology, corporate location, personal training. You then went private and then online. So in every aspect, that's growth, right? What keeps you motivated to keep growing?
Well, I mean, I definitely love what I do. And all of those phases, it's always been about helping people, but just to a different capacity. So whether that was being with someone in person, helping them just simply get through their workout, to now really helping them find that balance, like we said, with health, fitness, career, family, and how to really make fitness and health a part of their life rather than taking away from it. So seeing I think to answer your question more specifically, is the impact that it's going to have on future generations.
Yeah.
So when I help the mom now, she is setting an example for her kids. Yeah. And I think that's when I get, very lit up is, and even if they don't have kids, it's their mom, their dad, their aging mom and dad. And now they are wanting to walk more, eat better, and live a more fulfilling lifestyle. Like, it's not just impact. When I'm helping one client, I'm not just helping that one client. I'm helping all their loved ones around them, because they're watching them. There's always someone watching you, right? Or someone you look up to, or someone who loves you is seeing what you're doing. And I feel like that is what really motivates me to keep going.
I really like that. It's like being able to change a pattern within a family dynamic. Like if the mum that you're helping, if her mum had a terrible relationship, you are able to interject to help it for the next generation, which is, I think, priceless. Yeah, definitely. Like, very much. What else? What else motivates you?
I think, we never really know how long we're here on this earth. And I'm a firm believer of, you know me a little bit. I'm a fun-loving girl. I am very spontaneous. I'm sometimes a little crazy. And like, I want to be able to get the most out of life while I'm here, whether that, of course, health and fitness is going to play a big role in that. But being in good health, having good endurance, being physically fit allows me to go to travel and do these fun excursions, do these crazy hikes, and or go to these shows and concerts and be able to have the endurance to dance all night and stuff like that. And I think that's what really motivates me, because I always seek fun, and I feel like I'm a big kid at heart.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And in everything that I do.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like 1,000%. 1,000%. How do you, like, out of all the fitness coaches that I follow, right? How do you balance, or like, you show up in your most authentic way, which is the big kid at heart, right? And you do it in a way that makes a person, and obviously I'm speaking from my side for what I see, it makes a person want to be able to let that side of them out. And it's like, you do it in obviously fitness, so I can get my goal. You post when you love to go to concerts and party and whatever else. So it's like giving people that permission to be like, oh, I can have this and also have this as well. And I think that's something that misses in the fitness space from my perspective. And I think you do it in such a way that gives people permission to have both. If no one's ever told you that, I just want to tell you that. Mm-hmm. And I think in some way I've said this 1,000 times, the fitness space lacks or misses the space for people to be like, this is what I am on one day, but on Tuesday I'm also this way as well. And I can be both a party animal and be dedicated to my health and wellness goals and be dedicated to business. How do you show up in your business now that it's growing, right? Like, I'm going to assume that for you, that it is growing. How do you show up for it in a way where you can still wear all those hats, or show up as your different selves that complement your business?
I think there's two parts to this. So one thing you said earlier was, how do you like show up as this and still do this like for general like population.
Yeah.
So I want to address that first. So, and this will apply to both things, but I always preach to my clients, what you do most of the time has a much greater impact than what you do only sometimes.
I agree.
Therefore, if you want to go out and have your fun, you want to go on date night, you want to be a foodie and try new restaurants and, new cuisines and things of that nature, well, as long as you are taking care of yourself and your health and eating fairly balanced meals most of the time, then you can absolutely enjoy those moments and do those things when it's only sometimes.
Yep.
And when it comes to showing up in business, kind of like same concept. Like, yes, I'm a fun-loving foodie myself sometimes and just, wear these different type of hats. But I know when to be serious and when things need my attention, and I know when to pull back and let loose. But I will say that it's a good balance, but any of my decisions, any of my behaviors, my habits, it's all about what I do majority of the time than the, far and few moments that I'm doing something completely off plan or completely different or erratic.
Yeah, erratic. So yeah, good way to put it. If I'm sitting at home and I'm unsure of where I should start, or I want to do something, I know I need to eat healthier, what would be like your first recommendation?
I would recommend not looking at your nutrition. I mean, nutrition is going to be first and foremost the change I feel like we're going to want to make here. But rather than going immediately to well, what can I not eat? What can I cut out? Tell yourself or look and evaluate your daily choices and, well, what can I add in? Can I add in more vegetables, more fruit, more fiber? Can I add in more protein? That is, I think our brains immediately think I need to take away X, Y, and Z rather than, well, maybe I should add A, B, C.
Yeah.
And it's those additions that help automatically. When you're eating more protein, you're eating more fiber, you tend to be more satiated. You start to make better health choices as is, or you start to feel more full and you don't feel the need to reach for something less nutritious. So it's more about the things that you add, and then as that becomes a habit, it'll affect or can impact the rest of your daily choices.
I've actually, this is the first time I've had someone explain it that way. Like, even for me, to add in as opposed to take out. And as soon as you said it, my brain was like, oh, I get to add something in. Like, I weirdly got excited about it. I was like, it's not even for you. But that language change was like, oh, I get something. So it's exciting, as opposed to I have to give something up, which is like depressing. I don't want to give something up.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Who does?
No one, right? So that immediate little shift of language could change someone's perception as to how they approach their food, thus their goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you share any valuable lessons that you feel like the listeners might benefit, the listeners? And we'll go in two parts. First part is for a person on their fitness journey, say like 5 years in, right? Unsure of where they might want to go, but a little bit stagnant. And then the second being somebody who is interested in personal training or online coaching.
So for the person who is a little stagnant after their fitness journey for a few years, like what would be the next step to take would be, I mean, it's very hard to say not knowing specific circumstances, but generally speaking, really evaluate again, like what changes in your lifestyle, nothing extreme, nothing drastic, can you make that will impact your fitness. So if you feel like you're at a stuck point, well, let's evaluate our nutrition. Are we adding the things that we need, as just like we were saying? Are we getting enough protein? Starting there, are we getting enough quality, nutritious foods, or are we kind of like being a little bit too lax about it? And maybe we can kind of dial in there a little bit more. And then even simply, can we increase our movement, not necessarily exercise, but whether that's, walking more, going outside, maybe adding in another day to the gym. But it's about a subtle, depending on which direction you want to go on, like, are we, wanting to lose weight? Are we wanting to build muscle? Either way, like what is going to put us back on that path? What is going to help us inch a little closer to that goal? But I will always say no matter the goal, it is going to be heavily impacted by your nutrition choices, whether that's you eating too little or not eating enough and not getting enough quality food sources. That is going to impact the rest of your results, energy, day to day.
I just thought of this question, so we'll jump back to the second part of this. For people who may struggle with being able to budget like fresh food and that, especially like veggies and whatever else, the internet's very split as to whether frozen foods is acceptable or unacceptable. Where do you stand on that?
Oh, I love this one. Okay, so I'm very passionate about this.
Okay, good.
And there's a reason, because putting a barrier on healthy food and nutrition by labeling things as not healthy, especially if it's vegetables, especially if it's non-organic, it puts that fear into people of like, well, because it's not fresh, because it's in a bag or in a can, it's not as good as the fresh food source.
Yep.
And then same thing with organic, because it's not organic, then it's toxic, it's dangerous, it's not as good. So do we not eat it at all? But there are so many studies. If you want me to pull out the facts and the receipts at some point, I will. I'd have to go look. But that say that the more vegetables, the more fruits, obviously nutritious food sources that you consume, you reduce your rate of mortality. Like you by default will be healthier versus not eating them at all.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and then again, putting those barriers to what about low income areas, families that have tons of mouths to feed, and telling them that they are only going to be healthy if their food is fresh. And what's the point if it's frozen or whatnot? That
like, might as well just give up.
You're telling them, you're sentencing them to like just giving up or being scared to even eat those things, when in reality it's probably what they really need.
Honestly, frozen vegetables are delicious. Like,
that, and it's quicker.
So quick. I hate cooking, and I'm like, frozen vegetables are my jam.
Yeah, and same thing with like frozen meats and just canned beans versus fresh beans. Like all of that is more readily accessible, especially to people who might not have the resources to always buy fresh and organic. So it allows more mass population to access these nutritious foods.
I agree with you. I agree. It is I'm a person who buys fruit and then it sits in my fridge and then it's waste. So if I buy frozen, it's so much easier. I get to control when I eat it, and it's going to have a large shelf life compared to the packet of berries that I just got, and it's going to last me 3 days.
Yes. Could be more cost effective that way as well.
Yep.
Yes. I'm all for that. I think it's, again, whatever your preference is and whatever is convenient and whatever is going to help you succeed the most. So if you're not a cook, I'm not a cook either. Like if eating more nutritious meals, and if you're going to be more successful with that, with the frozen or canned counterparts, then do it, because that's going to help you not only get results, but be healthy in the sense of like you're adding the foods to your already balanced diet that you need to be intaking for just overall longevity and health.
Yeah, I agree. Let's backstep to the question I just asked you before, with a 2-part one. So for anybody listening that might want to be a personal trainer or online coaching, what advice or valuable lessons you might have for them?
So this is someone who wants to be a personal trainer or online coach?
Yeah, either or.
Well, definitely practice what you preach and be visible, because you are we are our walking business card. And I don't mean that in an aesthetic way. I mean in your actions, in your behaviors, in your habits. Are you setting the example that you're going to be preaching to others? And then as far as getting in the space, well, it depends. I feel genuinely this, maybe because this is what I did, but if you are going to do online coaching, I kind of do feel, I guess it's not always necessary, but having some experience working with clients one-to-one, even though that's not going to be your role as an online coach, but it allows you to have not only the human interaction, but like practicing the dialogue and conversation that you have with the client one-to-one, being able to cue them, being able to, support them in like their fitness journey. I would say that's a good start. And then as you are doing some type of in-person training, you can start to do online as well. And I guess if you wanted to jump right to online, fine, that's great. And I've seen people do it, but really know your audience, know your type of clientele, how can you support them, have some type of education or certification that around training, nutrition. I do think it's important to be certified to, some degree. I feel like with online space, it's very unregulated because anyone without a certification can be an online coach. Excuse me. But like you need to have some type of background where you're learning the science of things, you're learning the methods and the strategies to be a successful coach. And of course there's marketing that goes involved in that, because you can be the smartest educated coach trainer but lack in proper marketing, and then you don't get visible to anyone. But I feel that if you are a good, knowledgeable coach and trainer first and foremost, that alone is part of your marketing.
I agree, actually. And I think like your message and your why speaks volumes, and it'll travel the furthest, followed by your results and what you can do for people and how you serve them and show up. But that marketing, especially in the world of online coaching or just online in general, in today's world is very, very needed.
Yes.
Like in every aspect. If you could give advice to younger you, what would you give her?
How young are we talking?
Let's go 20.
Oh man, those were not my best times. I would say I wish I could have told her that she was worthy and so much. She didn't need to worry so much about what other people thought of her. She didn't need to place such a, I guess, place her value on how she looked, I would have told her that regardless of what shape, size, weight you are, that you are still an incredible woman. You're still very smart, and you're going to go very far if you block out that the negative self-talk, the negative self-doubt, all the opinions and voices of other people that weren't aligned or going to help you grow.
I like it. What was hard about that time for you?
I was figuring out who I was. I was, again, middle of college, and I didn't really, like, I barely was still not sure what I was going to do in my future, what my job was. Like, I was probably starting to barely get into the whole kinesiology thing. But because of that, I was just, working hard. So the all or nothing, I was like working hard in my studies and then releasing with like partying too much, not sleeping enough, not eating well. And it just wasn't a comfortable time in that. Like, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but I was having fun, but I was not being healthy. I was not where I am today. I was trying to figure it out and didn't really know what I was doing.
Do you wish you could go back and change it?
No, honestly, I don't want to change anything about my history and my past. I know it's all led me to where I'm at now, the good and the bad.
Of course.
And if it wasn't for those experiences, to be honest, I wouldn't be here. I know I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like it led you to this moment.
Especially the health aspect of things and my habits and behaviors then to what they are now. That's like what I would say set the trajectory of my health and fitness journey, and my career ended up being my career was because of those choices made back then.
Yeah, you can almost like pinpoint the moment of like just like hearing what you said, right? You can almost pinpoint the moments of where you may not have been looking after yourself, but then decided that you needed to, in order to do what you were going to pursue in this line, which turned out to be kinesiology. And then from there, it just led you from one point to the next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do have one more question.
Okay.
Many people struggle to find motivation or to find a positive change in their lives. What advice do you have for listeners who want to make a change but feel stuck or unmotivated?
And is this pertaining to fitness mostly?
I think all area. Because in some way, like for me, right? Motivation can come in, if we rely on it, we're never moving anywhere. But you can feel stuck in all areas of your life.
Well, I think comes down to, I always like to say motivation is what gets you started, but it's discipline and habits that keep you going. So what initially is going to start you is, what is the greater why behind the path that you're taking? If it's aesthetics or metrics, so if it's a certain body weight or image, or if it's wanting to make a certain amount of money, those are very small on the grand scheme of things. But it's what's going to motivate you or help keep you motivated is, what is the feeling that the life that you're trying to chase from getting to those metrics. So it's not the number on the scale. It's not the certain body type. It's not a certain amount of money in your bank account or income. It's how are you going to feel when you get there? What are you going to do with your life? What is your future self how are you trying to fulfill your life? And how are you going to feel fulfilled in the future? How do you want to feel fulfilled in the future? What is your greater reasoning beyond vanity metrics or numbers?
I really like that. It's like, if I eat the candy now, how will I feel 10 minutes from now from eating the candy.
Yeah.
As opposed to, do I want to feel fantastic because I, said no because I don't really need it? Or it's a stress response or a habit or whatever it is, as opposed to being like, no, future self doesn't want me to eat it right now.
Delayed gratification.
Yes.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's overcoming the short-term gratification for
the bigger picture.
Yes.
Always the bigger picture. Natalie, do you have any closing words for me or the listeners?
I think this was a really good conversation. To be
Same.
honest, I didn't know what to expect. I knew we were going to talk all things like health and fitness, but this really allowed us to dive deep into, again, like whether it was like the myths, women in fitness, business, like just everything. I'm really happy that you brought me on first and foremost, but that we were able to have this conversation to open the doors for more conversation for all of your listeners, and to maybe even just start a certain discussion on any of the topics that we highlighted today, which were a lot. And to keep, I think we obviously share a lot of the same beliefs and philosophies in this space, so being able to share that with others, and for it to kind of have the telephone effect of, I heard this, I heard that, and this is what helped them, and and kind of go from there. So I'm excited for the growth of everything that we talked about and the growth of your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to the next one.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you, Natalie.